السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. First and foremost, forgive me for drinking this in front of you all. Sheikh Muhammad brought this for me as a gift. So apparently this is the famous place, the Coffee Bean. And he said I can't leave without having one of these. And this is the most incredible coffee slash whatever it is that I've ever had in my life. So it's pretty good. You guys should be proud of that. I'm very happy to be here. Do I have to stand behind the podium, by the way, or can I move? I can move around? Okay. Jazakumullah khair. So if it's okay with you all, just so I don't feel constricted. I'll try not to make you work too much, inshallah ta'ala. I'm very happy to be here, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Let me just say off the back, mashallah, what an impressive community that you guys have. What an impressive community, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, that everything is, I was just about to talk about how everything is so organized, and but everything is so organized, or I thought it was until just now. I have never in my entire traveling around the country seen a masjid that's to this detail with every single little thing. That's from Brother Adam's extensive planning. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the highest level of Jannah inshaAllah, to Sheikh Muhammad's hospitality, to everyone's just pure organization. And it's very impressive, and you should all feel very blessed to be part of this community. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. I'm actually very envious. Most masajid that you go around the country, the speaker system doesn't work properly. You know, whenever you fly into a place, you got to figure out everything on your own. If they don't book you in a cheap motel, then you have to fight for reimbursements of hotels and stuff like that. So from the treatment of the imams, it's terrible usually. To the quality of the sound system, to the attendance, everyone is very late, and mashallah, we're starting, we said 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock was the start time, right? Or that was just pizza and socializing. Pizza, where's the pizza, by the way? You didn't offer me? Okay, I take it back with the hospitality thing. I didn't get any pizza. So, but mashallah, everything has been wonderful. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. I'm very happy to be here. Now, the topic, and yes, I did choose the title. I didn't make the title up, or I didn't plagiarize the title. Oh, jazakumullah khair. No, sister, you can't. I'm gonna be chewing on the pizza while you guys are watching me then. But the title, Endless Devotion. Remember those who remembered you. Brother Adam wanted a good title. So I tried to give him a good title. Otherwise, I would just call it shukr, or loyalty, or wafa, or just use a standard title. But I know how, from the way that Sheikh Muhammad Faqih stands up and starts his khatira, I can tell that nothing is done ordinary here. So, but basically, the title of shukr. And the title of shukr, though, is not your typical lecture about shukr. Why? Because we're not going to be talking about shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala necessarily, okay? Usually when you think of shukr, you think of being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But rather showing gratitude to people who have done good for you in your life. The people that were there for you throughout your life. Okay? Showing gratitude towards them. And I know because I always like to browse through the previous lectures that are done at a masjid to make sure that I don't duplicate anyone else's topics. So I know that Sheikh Muhammad recently gave a talk, something in regards to shukr, reflections on Libya and those types of things. But if I'm not mistaken, that was more along the lines of shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Being grateful for what we have, being thankful for the situation that we're in. Was it along the lines of that? Or you guys just don't remember? It was along the lines of being grateful to Allah Azza wa Jal, correct? So, tonight I want to shift it to a different focus. And the first hadith, and this will kind of set the basis for it, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Man lam yashkur al-nas lam yashkur Allah." Whoever is not grateful to people is not truly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The meaning of that hadith is very, very, very profound. Okay? And it's also true, although the hadith is not such, but if we were to switch it around, and I'll explain how. If we were to say, مَنْ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ اللَّهِ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ النَّاسِ, whoever does not thank Allah, is not grateful to Allah, will not be grateful to people, is also true. Okay? Now let's first take a look at this hadith and try to analyze it as critically as possible. Number one, what was the goal of shaitan in the Quran? What is the end goal of shaitan? It's to make people ungrateful. Okay? Shaitan says, وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. You will find that most of them are not going to be grateful people. Okay? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says shaitan was right. Right? Where? What ayah? Allah Azza wa Jalla says shaitan was telling the truth. Where? وَقَلِيلًا مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. And very few of my servants are grateful people. Okay? I want you to think very, very deep about this. Shaitan says that after all this da'wah of mine, after my coming to them from the right and from the left, after my swaying them here, swaying them there, after all of this, the end goal is that they will not be grateful people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling shaitan from them, he's going to be successful in that aspect. Most people are very ungrateful people. Most people will be disconnected from gratefulness. And from a standpoint with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the moment that you separate gratefulness from your ibadah, gratefulness from your worship, is the moment that your ibadah will start to lose its feeling, will start to lose its taste. When you stop praying out of gratefulness, okay? When you stop fasting out of gratefulness, when you stop being a good person out of gratefulness, once you disconnect shukr from your ibadah, you have a problem. But now let's take it to gratitude towards human beings and remembering those who remembered you. Yes, it's true. Whoever is not grateful to people will not be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what's so interesting is that shaitan made the oath that you would find that most of them are ungrateful people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقَلِيلًا مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشُّكُورِ, and very few of my servants are grateful. Allah Azza wa Jal did not specify ungrateful to Him. But they would be ungrateful people, that this would be a characteristic, a trait that they would have. When we talk about human beings now, being grateful and ungrateful to human beings, I said that the opposite also holds true. مَنْ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ اللَّهِ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ النَّاسِ. Whoever is not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be grateful to people. And Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned something very important in this regard. If a person is not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, we know from this hadith you can't separate the two. Okay? You're either a grateful person with everyone, or you're ungrateful to everyone. There is no partial gratefulness in that regard. You can't have one without the other. And Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah mentioned something very significant. That the one who is not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will treat every single relationship in dunya like a business contract. What does that mean? Essentially, when you form a friendship, or you have a relationship with someone, the goal of that relationship from your perspective is to gain as much from that person while giving them the least responsibility. Think about it. Okay, if you have a friend, and that friend, usually we form relationships on the basis, and this is very shallow, but this is what we're talking about, shallow people. Okay, this person might be able to get something done for me today. We don't form relationships, or we don't treat people with courtesy based upon, their status in deen. We don't treat them, and for example, a person who has no connection to deen whatsoever, who has nasty character, but who has some connections in the city. When he walks into a Muslim gathering, everyone's going to stand up and say, Salam wa rahmatullah. Kif halak akhi? Where have you been? Shu akhbarkum? How have you been? Ouch. Okay, it's my fault? I was talking about the speaker system being done. It's my fault, alright. So let me, if I stand here, will it be okay? Okay. Am I talking too loud, by the way? Okay. Alright, so I just want to make sure, inshallah ta'ala. So when that person walks into a gathering, everyone treats him with a certain level of respect. Why? Because although I don't like his character, at the end of the day, if I'm in trouble, If I get in trouble with the authorities, I know that I'm going to be able to call this guy, so I better be nice to him. Right? And if you have a friend in dunya, even if that person is very close to you, again, this is the shallow definition. When that friend becomes draining upon you, it doesn't matter what he's done for you in the past. Eventually you're going to get sick of answering the phone. You're going to be like, I don't need this. This is not benefiting me. Okay? So in a way, our relationships become like insurance companies. Seriously. I want maximum benefit from you while giving you minimum responsibility. While giving, at least from my perspective, I don't want to give you much. I want to benefit from you. The minute that the scale tips the other way, I'm going to try to distance myself from that relationship. And subhanAllah, think about this in regards to parents. You know, I say this all the time. Especially brothers and sisters who are just raising kids, who are just, new to this whole parenting thing. I'm new to the parenting thing too, by the way. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to test me with my words. But it's very important for us to understand. The best way to have children that will love and respect you when you get older, and that will treat you well, and that will be grateful to you, is to make them grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you raise your children upon deen, what else is going to make them treat you well whenever you get older? Otherwise, if they're not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they're not thinking of Allah azza wa jal, then you're just going to be a burden on them. You're just going to be dead weight. They're not going to want to be around you anymore. You're draining them now. They've already got the car from you. They've already went off to college. You put them on their own 2 feet. Now that they're set on their own 2 feet, they don't want you anymore. They don't need you anymore. It happens a lot with parents. Right? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُعْجِبْكَ أَمْوَالُهُمْ وَأَوْلَادُهُم. Don't be amused, don't be fascinated by their wealth and by their children. Why? يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُعَذِّبَهُمْ بِهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires to punish them with that. Think about this. The brothers and sisters who will neglect Islamic education in their homes, who will neglect tarbiyah, who will neglect raising their children and raising themselves at the same time upon La ilaha illallah, who will themselves not be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and will not teach their children the same way, who will invest so much time into getting them first-class education, who will make sure that they're spoiled rotten, that you drive the best car when you get older, that you have everything at your disposal. What does that benefit when the child then turns around at 18 and says, shut up dad, I'm a grown man now? Benefited you nothing. So the best way to have children who will treat you well is to raise them to be dutiful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because as Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, the opposite of the hadith holds true also. Rasulullah said, "Man lam yashkur al-nas lam yashkur Allah." Whoever does not thank people does not thank Allah. Whoever is not grateful to Allah will not be grateful to people. He will forget you. Your child would forget you. Why? Because you're a burden now. And we think like insurance companies sometimes. We become that shallow. So I want to talk about, dear brothers and sisters, specifically being grateful to human beings. And before I do that, I'll mention the general categorization of shukr, because it's important to understand. There are 3 categories of shukr. 3 ways of expressing gratefulness. Can anyone tell me? Try to be interactive, please. How do you thank someone? Action is one. Okay? Ash-shukr bil-jawarih. Shukr bil-jawarih, the scholars of tazkiyah call it shukr, being grateful with your limbs, literally, with your actions. What else? With your heart. Ash-shukr bil-qalb, to mean your gratefulness. Okay? When you say thank you to someone, it's heartfelt. What's the other one? Sisters should know this very well. What do women always complain about from their husbands? Huh? Kalam, good. Speaking, speech. Al-lisan, ash-shukr bil-lisan. Okay? These are the 3 categories that make up shukr. Alright? And it's important to mention, even whenever we start breaking down the categories of being grateful to people, why? Because shukr is so comprehensive. Right? Shukr in the Arabic language, who can tell me what it means? Shakara. Anyone know what it means? Shukr in the Arabic language is the opposite of kufr. Literally, it's the antonym of kufr. Okay? Kufr is to conceal something. Kufr is to disbelieve. And whenever you say kufr in the Arabic language, it does not necessarily mean disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To deny something that you know is there. Okay? So it's to conceal something, right? Shukr, on the other hand, listen to the beautiful meaning of it in the Arabic language. You know, if someone comes to me, like if Sheikh Muhammad, for example, and the sister, may Allah reward her, people are, coming and giving me pizza and then giving me a drink. Let's say that someone went outside, and I'm not suggesting this, by the way, and got 2 boxes of pizza and started stuffing my mouth with pizza. And while my mouth is full of pizza, I say, okay? I would say in the Arabic language, shakarta. Shakarta. Which means, stop, you've done too much. Think about this. Stop, you've done too much. This is the way that the Arab used to use the word shukr. Shakarta. Okay? So shukr in the Arabic language means extra. Okay? So we're not talking about, when we talk about loyalty only. Okay? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ash-shakur. No matter how much you do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can you give Him what He gives you? No. Never. Okay? So it's extra. Okay? So when you do things for people that are extra, then you are being a grateful person. Then you are being shakur. Okay? And Allah Azza wa Jal is ash-shakur. Then we talk about these 3 categories. Ash-shukur, first and foremost, bil-qalb. You have to mean your gratefulness. You have to mean your thanks to someone. It has to be heartfelt, right? And parents would know the difference, for example, when you have to tell your child to go do the dishes, and as opposed to if the child does the dishes on his own accord, right? The difference of the feeling that you would have when that happens is incredible. Even if he did a lousier job, without you having to tell him, you would appreciate it because it's heartfelt. Okay? So shukr is worthless if it's not from the heart. Okay? So first and foremost, ash-shukr bil-qalb. Secondly, ash-shukr bil-lisan. Okay? To actually be grateful and express gratefulness. Okay? Now I know in our cultures, this is something that's considered aib, this is something that's considered shameful, is to say I love you and thank you sweetie and these types of things, and this is generally frowned upon as Western culture. Right? This is something that you guys got from the West, and I don't need to do this and I don't need to do that, and people refuse to speak in a nice way. Okay? Now in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look how important ash-shukr bil-lisan is. Rasulullah ﷺ said in the explanation of the last ayah of Surah Duha, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. As for the bounty of your Lord, then speak of it, then mention it. Rasulullah ﷺ said, التحدث بنعمة الله شكر وَتَرْكُهَا كُفْرٌ. To speak of the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you is gratefulness, and to abandon it is disbelief. That's how significant it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now how about with people? Okay? No matter how much you do and no matter how much you mean, sometimes if it's not expressed, there is no shame in thanking a person. Okay? There is no shame in being sweet with your talk. This is what Rasulullah ﷺ was. Rasulullah ﷺ was someone who was he was always thankful with his tongue. Okay? Having a sweet tongue is very, very, very important. And this is sometimes brothers and sisters struggle with it in marital affairs, especially. And sometimes children who grow up in this culture, who are used to the fantasized, Hollywood lifestyle, and all those things that you see on TV, they feel hurt by this. They feel a lack of compassion because sweet words are not there. It's a very simple thing that you could add into your life, and it's expression of your gratefulness. Okay, so I'm not necessarily just talking about the tongue and those types of things. SubhanAllah, just a few weeks ago I had a couple that I was counseling, and the wife was complaining about the husband, and really the husband does a lot. He does a lot, but he never says anything nice to her. I mean, it's always just business. Like, okay, what do you want? I'll get you this. Alright, you want this? Go buy it. He's such a rough person, so I said, yeah, it wouldn't hurt every once in a while to be nice to her, to speak nicely, to say I love you to her, to bring flowers for her, to show an expression. These things are not from Western culture, these things are from Sunnah. So for example, one of the things, Imam Ibn Qudama rahimahullah al-Maqdisi, he said that to express love, to express affection in a way that's not inappropriate, is from the Sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ, where in whatever fashion it is. So it changes in that regard. So, the idea of kissing on the cheek every time you walk into the house and those types of things, expressions of love, expressions of gratitude, this is Sunnah. Rasulullah ﷺ never walked into the house of one of his spouses without first kissing them, without first embracing them. Expressions of love and these types of things. So I told the guy, you should buy some flowers every once in a while. And subhanAllah, 3 days later, the woman calls out. She never sees this video, I hope it's... but the woman calls me, and she's just literally broken. And I'm saying, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she's so she's like breathing really hard and talking about, he bought me flowers. And I was like, okay, that's good. Alhamdulillah, he bought me flowers. But the problem is that he came in with the flowers and he threw them at her and he said, here, you happy? I gave them to you. Inshallah, she never watches this video. Don't publicize this video. So it defeated the purpose completely. No, I talked to the guy and he was like, Shoo Sheikh Omar, what do you want from me? I bought her what she wanted. Like, you completely missed the point. So sometimes being grateful with the tongue, expressions of gratefulness, okay? Expressions of gratefulness are very, very significant. And this is not just between husband and wife. This is from child to parent. This is from parents to children. Okay, this is to brothers and sisters. This is, generally speaking, expressing your gratefulness is extremely important. Okay? The third thing is action. Actions speak louder than words. And yes, actions, ash-shukr bil-jawarah, this is the most important thing. Definitely, this is the most important thing. Right? But you take it within the comprehensive understanding of shukr. And a lot of brothers and sisters would say, well, we do a lot. We do a lot. Right? But we just don't know how to express it. Okay, so alhamdulillah, the core matter is there, but you need to beautify it with expression. And it's more important to have the action there than the expression. Acting in a grateful manner. Okay, sometimes expressions are empty. Okay, and empty expressions hurt more than actions that aren't represented by expression. Okay, or actions that aren't beautified with expression. Okay, اعملوا آل داود شكرا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, act or work, O people of Dawood, O family of Dawood, in a grateful manner. Okay, so you have to act in a grateful manner also. It's extremely important in that regard. Now let's break it down to the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the ideal example of a person who is gracious, not just in the sense of his everyday demeanor. Okay, we obviously know from the aspect of ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's constantly thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But not just from that aspect, but when do you hear about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam complaining about his clothes, or complaining about his food, or complaining about, some situation? He never complained. Okay, so he was a very grateful person, and a very gracious person in his character sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I want to talk about specifically the way Rasulullah ﷺ dealt with the important people in his life. Okay? And one of the important things from the hadith of where Jibreel ﷺ is advising Rasulullah ﷺ, in the authentic hadith of Tirmidhi, Jibreel ﷺ is giving Rasulullah ﷺ advice outside of his capacity of the messenger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning Jibreel ﷺ. So outside of the capacity of wahi. And one of those is وَحْبِبْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُ. Love who you will, but you're going to eventually be split from that person. Okay? But one of the important meanings of that hadith is to prioritize your relationships in life. Okay? To prioritize your relationships in life. First and foremost, there was probably no human being who did more for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam without complaining more than Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Khadija radiallahu anha is just that special. And she's so special that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends Jibreel alayhi salam. I mean, imagine this. Okay? Now, many times the wives of imams and dua and people that are busy for in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they struggle. And eventually, rightfully so, sometimes they crack. That you're not giving us enough time, or those types of things. A lot of imams struggle with this. A lot of dua struggle with this, trying to balance family life and these types of things. Look at Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. She was so wealthy. She was so wealthy that she could sponsor the entire household, and she was literally, at one point, the only financial source of the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? She had everything. And at the same time, she had noble status. At the same time, I mean, think about this, and let's think about the human aspect of this, because sometimes we forget that the companions were human beings. Think about the human aspect of this. All of a sudden, Rasulullah ﷺ starts his call. And as a dignified woman, who was 15 years elder to my husband, I lose my noble status in the sense that now, we're looked at as the low people of society. We're about to go through boycott. We go through boycott and these types of things. All of our money is gone. All of our wealth is gone. All the headache that comes, the emotional headache that comes whenever your husband comes home bruised up and with marks on him and these types of things, having to be there for Rasulullah ﷺ. Think about the human aspect of this, the human drain that must have came upon Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. But she never complained. Even to the point that she died of malnutrition because of the boycott that came as a result of the da'wah of Rasulullah ﷺ. She never complained. And there was no person that Rasulullah ﷺ appreciated more than her. Anytime she was mentioned, Rasulullah ﷺ's face would completely change. Anytime Rasulullah ﷺ got some food in his house or some gifts, he would constantly send to her friends, just out of his remembrance of her. Look at the loyalty of Rasulullah ﷺ to her, right? And it was even to the point that whenever her sister Hala would come and call upon Rasulullah ﷺ, Aisha radiallahu anha describes this scene. Rasulullah ﷺ automatically, if he's reclining, he jumps up. He gets up right away. And he says, Allahumma hala, Allahumma hala, oh Allah it's hala, oh Allah it's hala. He used to remember the voice of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha through the mouth of Hala. And he would rush to go see what she wants. And Aisha radiallahu anha describes it from her perspective. You know that I was never jealous over any of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the way that I was jealous of Khadija radiallahu anha, وَمَا رَأَيْتَهَا, and I never saw her before. SubhanAllah, I never met her before. But I was more jealous of her than any of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So one day she decided to test the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was remembering Khadija radiallahu anha. So Aisha radiallahu anha says what? هَلْ كَانَتْ إِلَّا عَجُوزًا بَدَّلَكَ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا. Wasn't she just an old woman that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you better than her? She pushed the wrong button. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the hair on his head stood up. Think about how angry he was. His face turned red. And now at this point, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam really cannot benefit much from a marital perspective by talking about the dead wife. Right? If anything, he's to convince the alive wife that I don't care about her anymore. But look at the loyalty of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Says, Wallahi ma badalani Allahu khayran minha. Oh, by Allah, Allah did not give me better than her. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam starts to mention her favors. Think about this. Sadaqatni idh kadhabani an-nas. She believed in me. Now, amanat bi idh kafara bi an-nas. She believed in me when people disbelieved in me. She considered me truthful. She believed me when other people called me a liar. She spent on me, إِذْ حَرَّمَنِي النَّاسِ, when other people refused to spend on me. And this is one thing that I want all of the brothers to pay specific attention to, because we're going to start with the brothers in that regard. وَرَزَقَنِي اللَّهُ وَلَدِهَا إِذْ حَرَّمَنِي أَوْلَادَ النِّسَاءِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with children through her, and He did not give me children through any other woman. I want you to think about this, dear brothers and sisters. Okay? For a moment. But let's just mention very quickly, how much time do I have, by the way? Till 9? I stop at 9? Okay, I'll stop at 9 inshallah. So I need to just speed up a little bit. I know that I'm kind of blabbering on. I want to get to the point of these things. Rasulullah ﷺ loved Khadija radiallahu anha so much. And this is just one more story that I just have to mention because it truly, it's so heartwarming. I want you to imagine this. Rasulullah ﷺ in the battle of Badr. One of the prisoners that he had was Abu al-As, who was the husband of his daughter Zainab bint Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam radiyallahu anha, the daughter of Khadija. And she sends to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because Abu al-As was fighting against the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he buckled to the peer pressure from the other side. And she sends to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the necklace of Khadija radiyallahu anha to ransom her husband. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looks at this necklace and his entire facial expression changes. He's full of tears, subhanallah. This is reminding him, it's painful memory of his wife Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. And he's looking at it. And he says to the Sahaba, if you wish you can free her prisoner and give her back the necklace. SubhanAllah, the gratefulness of Rasulullah sallallahu to Khadija radiallahu anha, it never went away. He always was grateful to her. Okay? And this would bring me to my first point, because we're going to categorize this. Shukr, gratitude between husband and wife. Okay? Specifically speaking, and I specifically want to emphasize the last portion. Okay? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with children through her, and He did not bless me with children through anyone else. First and foremost, this is to the brothers. You know? We have to think about this. You know, Shaykh Muhammad was speaking about this. I don't want to spill too many, I'm not going to spill too many beans, but he was talking about starting a project to show appreciation to our wives. Okay, in that regard. Allah Azza wa Jal gives you this wife. And this woman gives birth to your children. She gives you a piece of you. And you still have the nerve to abuse her either mentally or physically. SubhanAllah, or emotionally. And it's interesting, subhanAllah, because Rasulullah ﷺ mentions this favor specifically. And this was not just something that Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned and the Sahaba did not take it seriously. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, a man once comes to him and says, you know, I want to divorce my wife. Umar radiallahu anhu says, why? He says, she's just not attractive to me anymore. You know what Umar radiallahu anhu says? Where's your courtesy? فَإِنَ الرِّعَايَةِ, where's your courtesy? Where's your courtesy? Meaning what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you children through this woman. This is the woman that takes all of your garbage when you go home and you vent out because of whatever you had at work. And then you still have the nerve to be rude to this person and to deny that this person had a huge part in your life. This is not from the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to recognize that. And subhanAllah, this is another situation that I dealt with that boiled me. I remember a brother once complaining to me. He says that my wife doesn't do enough to take care of herself. I said, and I know that's a common complaint. And by the way, everything is with balance, right? Men and women, husband and wife should try to keep in shape for each other, should try to keep attractive for each other, as to keep their gazes restricted from other people. This is a fact. But again, the aspect of courtesy. And I'm like, didn't your wife just have a baby? And he says, yeah. I said, how long ago? 2 months ago. I'm like, your wife just had a baby 2 months ago and you're coming and complaining about her appearance? SubhanAllah, a lot of times, you know, a lot of brothers, we have to think about this. And we'll say, she just doesn't do it for me anymore. I'm just not attracted to her anymore. She's, you know, if anything, she might have lost her shape because of us. We're the one that got her pregnant in the first place. Being grateful to your wife is something that Rasulullah ﷺ teaches us through the example of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Now I can shift my attention to the sisters. Brothers, ignore everything that I'm about to say. And I hope that no one uses these things against each other. But Rasulullah ﷺ also mentioned it on the other side. Right? Rasulullah ﷺ once when he was admonishing the women, Rasulullah ﷺ said, إِنَّهُنْ يَكْفُرْنَ. Verily they disbelieve. Now, again, the word kufr. And Islam is balanced. Islam is balanced. So, the male Sahaba say to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Rasulullah, are our women kuffar? Are our women kuffar? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, no, innahun yakfurna bil ashir. Okay? They disbelieve in the good that you do towards them. Meaning what? And this is the exact example that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, that sometimes, and this happens a lot between husband and wife, I'm not saying it's everybody, please, no one throw a piece of pizza at me or anything like that, okay? Or a chair, that would hurt. But I'm not saying everybody, but think about this. Rasulullah ﷺ said that you would do so much good and then one mistake and the answer is, I've never seen any good from you. Sometimes women use this as a tactic against men. I know because I'm the imam in my community and I've seen this many times. You've never done this for me. You've never done that for me. You've never done that. I hear the word never. I mean, from the sisters in my community more than anything else. I'm like, come on, never? Never? You know? So you would deny everything because of one misstep. And unfortunately what that does is that fuels the other side and then that's where shaitan works his magic. Right? So it's also important for the sisters, sometimes we're idiots, sometimes we mess up. Okay? And it's important from the sisters not to deny every good thing that the husband does based upon this one mistake and said, I've never seen any good from you, you've never treated me well, you've never taken me out, the sister, didn't you just go to Disney World, something like that. You've never done this. The word never, يَكْفُرْنَ بِالْعَشِيرِ. Very, very, very important. Okay? To keep this in mind from both sides. To be grateful to one another as husband and wife is crucial. And we see it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the perfect balance in that regard. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, generally speaking, okay, when someone has done something for you, okay, a friend, a brother, a sister, a companion, someone was there for you more than anyone else. I want you to imagine the scene with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who is the most beloved person to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Aisha radiallahu anha. Who next? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu so much. And this is an incident that happened between Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu and Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And they had an argument. And Abu Bakr hurt Umar. He said something wrong to Umar, and Umar radiallahu anhu became upset from Abu Bakr. Now listen to the story. Abu Bakr was in the wrong. Umar was in the right, but Umar radiallahu anhu went to his house. Abu Bakr sought forgiveness. Umar said, I don't want to forgive you. Okay? He didn't want to hear it. He was upset at that time. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu went to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to say to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, not to complain about Umar radiallahu anhu, to say, Ya Rasulullah, I wronged Umar. And I'm trying to get him to forgive me. And he's seeking advice from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. While he's seeking advice from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what happens? Here comes Umar. Umar radiallahu anhu is coming to tell Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu that he forgives him. While he's coming and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is talking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam looks at Umar radiallahu anhu and his face becomes red. He's so angry. And Abu Bakr knows Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he falls on his knees and he says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, I was the one who wronged him. I was the one who wronged him. Don't blame him. I was the one who wronged him. And Umar radiallahu anhu is coming to apologize to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. And listen to the loyalty, again from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that whenever I came with this message, all of you called me a liar except for Abu Bakr. All of you called me a liar except for Abu Bakr. هَلْ أَنْتُمْ تَارِكِي لِي صَاحِبِي. Are you going to leave my companion alone? Are you going to leave my companion alone? He said it to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu 3 times. Are you going to leave my companion alone? Subhanallah. He never forgot Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And in fact, even at the time of his death, when his death is approaching, and the Sahaba had their gates to the masajid, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, relieve me of all of these gates, close all these gates to the masjid, except for the gate of Abu Bakr. Anyone who has done anything for us, we have repaid him. Except for Abu Bakr, we were never able to repay him. Look at the loyalty. Subhanallah. We tend to forget the people who helped us in our times of need. I'm not talking about specifically your parents or your husband or your wife right now. Generally speaking, there were brothers who were there for you. There were sisters who were there for you. At least have the decency to constantly call them and check up on them. Show them that you appreciate when they were there for you. It's not that once you get up on your feet, once you're established in all these types of things, you forget what they've done for you. Being grateful to the people that helped you in your times of need, the people that supported you emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, when no one else was willing to support you. This was the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'll mention one more story, and then inshallah ta'ala, I want to go on to another topic, just very quickly inshallah, and I'll try to finish by 9 o'clock. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the battle of Ta'if, he sees a woman coming towards him from the prisoners of Ta'if. And I want you to imagine the scene. And this woman comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she says, I am your sister through breastfeeding. I am your foster sister. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is astonished. And she shows Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam the bite marks of Rasulullah ﷺ on her back when Rasulullah ﷺ was a child. Who was this woman? Shayma bint al-Harith radiyallahu anha. The daughter of who? Halima Sa'diyah. The daughter of Halima Sa'diyah. And she shows Rasulullah ﷺ the bite marks when he was a child. She was older than him. And Rasulullah ﷺ is so humbled by this experience, he takes off his garments and he lays it on the ground and he offers her to sit on it. And he goes and he starts and he rushes to get camels for her and horses and things to give her. And Rasulullah ﷺ says, if you want, then you could stay with me and you will be honored and dignified. Or you can be sent back to your people and you'll be honored and dignified. Whatever you want, command me. Whatever you want from me. Think about this. This is statesman. Rasulullah ﷺ. And this is now a woman who's a prisoner. And look at the way Rasulullah ﷺ is treating her. Remember those who remembered you. Now specifically speaking, who are the people that have done most for us and we don't appreciate it? Who? Our parents. Our parents. There is no substitute for that. No substitute for that, for what our parents have done for us. And I want you to think about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانِ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا عَلَى كُرْهٍ وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. This is a beautiful ayah in Surah Al-Ahqaf, I believe ayah number 23 or so, or 15. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayah, listen to it. And we have commanded who? Not the believer. We have commanded al-insan. وَمَا سُمِّيَ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَّا لِنَسْيِهِ. He was not named al-insan except for his forgetfulness. We have reminded this forgetful creation. We have entrusted him with his parents to treat them with excellent conduct. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا. His mother held him in pain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the struggle of the mother in different ways in the Quran, subhanAllah. His mother held him in pain. She conceived him in pain. She delivered him in pain. حَمَلَتْهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا. She carried him in pain. She delivered him in pain. And then he went through وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا. His pregnancy and the breastfeeding period went through for 30 months. Until he reaches maturity and he reaches 40 years old. Then what happens whenever he gets mature? He figures it out. And he says, رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَكَ الَّتِي أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيَّ وَعَلَى وَالِدَيَّ. Oh Allah, give me the opportunity, give me the effort, or give me the ability to be grateful to you for your blessing and and my parents. وَأَنْ أَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَىٰ. And to do good deeds that you will be pleased with. And now what's he thinking of? وَأَصْلِحْ لِي فِي ذُرِّيَّتِي. He's seeing now the struggle, because you don't see what your parents went through until what? Until you become parents. Until you're being kept up all night. Until you're going and chasing around that little booger and you don't have your time anymore either. Right? Until your life has become your child. Then you figure it out. If you are a person of even half dignity, if you are a half decent person, you figure it out. So you start to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you with your children, with your own offspring. And you repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you declare that you are one of the Muslims. What is so amazing about this? There is no human being who has done more for you than your mother. And I know that especially the sisters can quote all the hadith about the mother. But for some reason they just don't resonate sometimes. We just don't get it sometimes. So I want to look at practical examples. Rasulullah ﷺ tells us about the story of Jurayj, who used to pray all the time. Abid, who used to always just worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his mother would call upon him to do things for him, and he would say, I'm busy in my worship. And he kept on answering, I'm busy in my worship. I mean, imagine this. And his mother says to him, what? I hope you don't die until you meet al-baghiyah, until you meet the prostitute. And he didn't understand that at that point. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? Allah Azza wa Jal sends a prostitute with a child and she says, he's the father. Think about that. Because he was busy with his ibadah and he wasn't answering his mother to go feed the chickens? Think about that. It sounds silly. But here's the thing. When you called upon your mother as a child because you needed to be fed, did she ever say no? No. Did she ever say, I'm busy doing my salah? Never. It didn't happen. You know, Zainul Abidin, Ali ibn al-Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa rahimahullah, the great grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, had a beautiful example. When he used to eat with his mother, and his mother would be eating from the same plate as him, he would refuse to eat until she finished eating. And she would say, oh my son, why aren't you eating? And he says, I'm afraid that I would look at something, that I would eat something that you had your eye on. I don't want to eat something that you were looking at and deprive you of that food. Why? Because when you were a child, if your mother has a slice of pizza, and she's had nothing to eat for the entire day, right? She's starving, and this slice of pizza gets presented, and this little baby comes, and this little baby has been eating all day, right and left, cookies, chips, everything that you can possibly imagine, paper towels and sand off of the beach, and everything that came in his hand, or her hand. And then you're about to take a bite of that pizza. I'm not going to do an actual demonstration, although I'm really tempted to. And then the baby goes, Dad? What's going to happen? She's going to take a piece, and she's going to put it in the she's going to feed the baby. She never would have responded with no. And whenever the man comes to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, what some say, it's authentic to Abdullah ibn Umar, some say it's marfu' to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I carried my mother on my back for the entire Hajj. This is before you had the cool tiles, and you had the AC, and you had the Mecca Hilton, and this is before all of that. This is when it was so hot that, you know, the people that, you know, my father lived in Medina in the 50s, and he used to tell me when you do Hajj, literally you're constantly moving your feet because your feet are burning from the stone. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, I carried my mother on my back for the entire Hajj. Or Ya to Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Have I repaid her? What was the answer of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? وَلَا بِطَلْقَةٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. Not even with a single cry that she had in labor. She carried you for 9 months. You carried her for one Hajj and you think it's over? SubhanAllah. We are so ungrateful to our mothers in the time of marriage. And this is something that I know it's a controversial topic. It needs a lot of explanation. And it needs a lot of elaboration. Everything is balanced. Please, we're talking about it from one perspective now. Brother A and sister B want to get married. They already formed a relationship outside of the marriage, and then they come to their parents and they say, Mom, Dad, I want that person. And the mom has a legitimate excuse. Or the mom just doesn't feel too comfortable. And you say, Mom, I don't care what you say, I'm a grown man now, I'm going to marry her anyway. You're willing to sacrifice a relationship that started with your existence in this dunya for 25, 30 years for a person that you just met the other day through MSA or through Facebook or whatever it is. You're willing to get rid of that. You're willing to dissolve that relationship like that. Now I'm not saying there is in Islam times that the person can get married even without his parents' approval. That the brother, and even if the sister, if the wali does not have a legit excuse, yes, there are procedures. But marriage is about sakina. Marriage is about tranquility. Think about this. So I'm not talking about what's halal right now, what's legally permissible. I'm talking about, think about it. Wake up. Wake up and think about it for a minute. You're willing to sacrifice the relationship of your parents for someone that came and caught your attention for a month or so. That is the most ungrateful thing that you can do. Alright? And if you want to hear what our Imams used to say, yes, in the madhab of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, it is legally permissible, and this is through consensus, for the man to marry without the wali. Without his own wali. The man doesn't need a guardian. And for a woman, if the wali does not have a legitimate excuse, perhaps in the madhab of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, of course the Hanafi madhab, the wali is not required. In the madhab of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, it's an easy procedure. Go to the sultan, present your case, the sultan sees that you don't have a legitimate excuse to stop this marriage, it's legally permissible. When did Imam Ahmad get married? Anyone know? He refused to get married until his mother died. He refused. It's not like he was waiting for her to hurry up and die, by the way. Alright? I'm not talking about that. He felt like he would not be able to do his duty towards her while being married at the same time. So, and he didn't recommend this, it's not the sunnah. The sunnah is to get married as young as possible. But sometimes we go beyond the bounds of legality and we think about the essence of things. He said, I'm not going to get married while she's still alive. It's legally permissible, it's sunnah, but I will not be able to be just with my mother. Now what happens, and go back to the statement of Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah, whoever is not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be grateful to people. It's a business contract. Your parents get old. My courtesy to you is putting you in a nice nursing home. My courtesy to you is calling you every once in a while. But if you keep getting more demanding, I'm going to say, how come my brother doesn't do it? How come my sister doesn't do it? Whenever you called upon your mom when you were a child, did she ever have that liberty? No. Ummuka, ummuka, ummuka. Your mother, your mother, your mother. The most important thing. And then your father too. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith from Abi Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that the only way that a person could repay his father is through what? What would he have to do? Who said it? To find him as a slave and to purchase his freedom. It's the only way. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used the word walid. Right? And some of the scholars, they debated, they said walid means parents. It means mother or father. Okay? But the correct meaning is that it's just father. Because you can really never repay your mother back. It's impossible. Why would Rasulullah ﷺ use this terminology? Your father. And this is something that we hear but we don't truly understand sometimes, especially with men. Especially with men. Have you ever heard the statement more or less that the only person who wants you to have a better life than himself is your father? The only person. Your father actually wants you to live a better life than him. So Rasulullah ﷺ is saying the only way you repay your father, you find him a complete slave because he employs you with the tools in life. You find him as a complete slave and you give him your freedom, otherwise you can never repay him. But I want to come to one thing. Does Allah Azza wa Jal mention the favors of the father in the Qur'an? Does he? We know from the mother. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions her labor pains. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions all these things. Does Allah mention the father? وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the mother. Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention what the father did for you? No. Why do you think that is? I'm not going to try to pull a Shaykh Nu'man Ali Khan because mashallah he's incredible with linguistic tafsir. So I'm going to stick within my bounds when it comes to the meaning of as regards to walida. Shaykh Nu'man explained it beautifully. Okay, that there is walid and walida. And I'll just give a brief thing because I already opened the curiosity. I'm sure some of you may have heard it, but he did a very beautiful linguistic study of the difference between and walida. And walid and abi. Okay, or ab. Whereas walid and walida mean father and mother. And ab also mean father and mother, but it's to a different degree of respect. Okay? Walid is someone who gave birth to you. A father who was responsible for your birth. Walida is the mother who conceived you. But you have to earn ab and You have to earn that title. Okay? So if a father leaves his child before she's even born or he's even born, is he ab? No. He's not the ab, but he's the walid. What about the Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command us to be good to al-walidain or to your and your ab? Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. We enjoin the person with ihsan towards his father and his mother, his birth father, his birth mother. Meaning what? If your father did absolutely nothing for you in life, you still have to be good to him. You can't complain. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ. His mother held him. Meaning she already earned the title of before you were even delivered. Because she held you for 9 months, she went through all that. Okay? And Allah Azza wa Jalla specifically mentions the pains of the mother. Why? Why is that? And this is something that's very, very beautiful in the language of the Qur'an, I'm not going into the linguistic tafsir, why Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the favors of the mother. Whenever the son gets old, the daughter gets old, and the son and the daughter says, I want a car, and goes to the mom, what does the mom typically say? Go ask your dad. Go talk to that guy. It's not my call. Usually the mother delegates the role of authority to the father. And usually the child treats the father with more respect than the mother. Why? Because my mom gets emotional, she cries too much, she's, those types of things. Because we don't remember, we cannot possibly remember what it was like for our mothers to hold us, to carry us, to give birth to us. We can't remember that. So naturally we have a tendency to disbelieve in that, to have a sense of kufr of that, to deny it, either with our tongues or with our actions. Or we don't appreciate it at all. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, your mother is the one that held you. She's the one that delivered you in pain and went through all of that. Never forget that woman. Never forget her. Never forget your father. Definitely. It's not to decrease the role of the father. But we tend to forget things. We don't have very good sight of the past. We don't have very good insight. We can't see very far in the past. We don't remember what it was like as babies until we have our own babies. And if we're half decent people again, then we think about it a little bit more. But especially your mother, you forget it more easily. So dear brothers and sisters, in conclusion of all of this, don't always just look at things in front of you as they are, and don't just build your relationships on benefits and those types of things. Think about what people have done for you. Think about all of the people who have done things for you in your life. Be it your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your child, your brother, your sister, a friend, someone who was there for you. And if you do not show gratefulness to that person, you know what happens on the Day of Judgment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala claims their right. Okay? And especially when we think about marriage, for example, especially in marriage. Because this is, and I'm going to just end on this note, inshaAllah ta'ala, where it's almost like, a cat and mouse game sometimes. Right? I'm trying to remind you of how much I've done for you, and trying to remind you of what a terrible spouse you are, either implicitly or explicitly, so that I can get better treatment from your side, more gratefulness from your side. Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, one of the things that he used to do, what was the meaning of the word shukr, by the way? Extra. Okay? Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, before he used to get inside his house, what did he used to do? No one knows this? Oh man, we're in trouble. What did he used to do? Anyone know? I'm hearing murmurs. What did he used to do? You know what he used to do? He used to pull out his comb. He used to fix his clothes. He used to get all neat, get all pretty. Then he walks into the house. Most of the time, what do we do in the house? When we get to the house, what do men do when we get? What do we do when we get home? Get down to our pajamas, whatever it is, sit on the couch. I'm hungry. Turn on the TV and ignore everybody in the house. None of that. And what does the woman look like usually whenever you get home? Sorry, sisters. I gotta be balanced. Is she dressed up looking nice for you and those types of things, and wearing her nicest clothes and saying, Ahlan wa sahlan ya zawji? Not really. It's, where have you been? That type of thing, right? Like the old movies. Who do you think you are? So here's the problem. This guy was out, and you guys live in California. I mean, come on, this is the land of Hollywood, Hollywood, right? This is the land of Hollywood. And you see these billboards, and you see all these women flaunting everything that they've got. Then you come home after lowering your gaze like you were supposed to. And and then on the opposite side, the husband that was supposed to be dreamy when he comes home and all those types of things, because again, we're into all this fantasized culture and these types of things, and you see your husband and he's dressed terribly and he looks like a mess and his hair's all over the place, if he still has any, and his clothes are all over the place and his shoes are all over the place and all this stuff is happening. And that automatically creates the wrong environment there. So Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, before he gets into his house, straightens himself out. Make sure that his hair is combed, make sure that his beard is nice and clean. and everything like that. And what does he say? He says, I like to look good for my wife just as I like her to look good for me. And he says, and listen to this very, very carefully. Can I have you to demonstrate something? Can I have you for a second, please? Please? Jazakallah khair. Please don't be nervous. Just come here for a second, inshallah ta'ala. You see this red line? Okay? So he says that on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask a person about the rights of other people upon them and how they responded to those rights. Al-Huquq. Day of Judgment is a day of Huquq. Okay? So I don't want to claim all of my rights from her because I'm afraid that this is the red line of rights. Okay? I'm afraid if I claim all of my rights from her, then Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to hold me accountable for stepping over the line. So I don't claim all of my rights from her. Because, and think about it, if both the husband and the wife are claiming their rights, what's going to happen? Can you come here for a second? Jazakallah khair. Now stand straight in front of me. You're going to be standing like this. And if we were the same height, we'd be face to face and there would be a lot of tension right now. Okay? And that's usually what happens in a marriage. So you take a step back. You don't claim all your rights. You can sit down now. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. You don't claim all your rights because you're afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. So what do? You give extra while claiming less. Because if there is any naqs, any deficiency on the other person's part, you'll be rewarded in akhirah. But if there is any naqs on your part, you're in trouble. So treat all of your relationships this way. I will treat my brother so-and-so, my sister so-and-so, with more love and more respect regardless of what they do to me. My wife, my husband, with more love, with more respect regardless. Why? Because I'm looking for the reward of a shakur. The more extra I give, the more that will be given to me. And whoever does not thank people, does not thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we also established tonight, whoever does not thank Allah Azza wa Jal, does not thank people. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll stop there. Jazakumullah khair. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Jazakumullah khair على حسن استماعكم. I don't know if there's questions or we just go to Salah now. Jazakumullah khair. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.